Hello, friends. Today I'm going to explain a movie based on a true story. The beginning of the story, we see a couple. The man's name is Cameron and the woman's name is Janice. They drive into a desolate forest under the cover of night. Cameron takes a body out of his car trunk and buries it in the ground. Janice is visibly terrified. Seeing her reaction, Cameron tells her, "It was just an accident. Forget about it." Actually, Cameron is a psychopathic man who enslaves young women. The next morning, Cameron and his wife set out to find their next target. On the way, they come across a young woman named Colleen, who asks them for a ride. Colleen is young, beautiful, full of life. Cameron, well, he doesn't hesitate. He agrees to give her a lift. As they drive, the couple begins questioning Colleen. "Why are you traveling alone?" Colleen tells them that she is traveling from Oregon to California to surprise her friends. Her friends had no idea she was coming. She wanted to keep it a surprise. Hearing this, Cameron makes a decision. Colleen will be his next target. During the journey, they stop at a gas station. Colleen steps out to freshen up. When she returns to the car, she notices a large box inside. It seems strange, but she doesn't pay much attention. They continue driving. Cameron tells Colleen about a nearby cave. Supposedly, it's very beautiful. He suggests she should come along. Trusting their words, Colleen agrees. Afterwards, they take her to a secluded area. As soon as she steps out of the car, Cameron suddenly grabs her at knife point. Blindfolding her, he forces her back into the car. Then he places her head inside a wooden box. Colleen is utterly bewildered. She has no idea what is happening. Cameron and Janice take Colleen to their house. Cameron drags her to the basement. He chains her hands, forcing her to stand. Her eyes remain blindfolded. She sees nothing. Suddenly, Cameron begins whipping her, strike unbearable pain. But Cameron doesn't stop. He keeps hitting her, leaving marks all over her body. Crying in pain, Colleen desperately asks, "Why are you doing this to me?" But Cameron doesn't respond. He continues torturing her without remorse. Adding to her torment, Cameron becomes intimate with his wife, in front of Colleen. This scene reveals just how deeply disturbed Cameron is. He doesn't just torture, he degrades. A cruel, psychopathic man who enjoys suffering. After this, Cameron locks Colleen inside a wooden box. The next day, Janice visits her. Desperate, Colleen pleads, "Please, let me go. I won't tell anyone." But Janice knows the truth. If she helps Colleen, her husband might kill her. So she stays silent. That night, Cameron approaches Colleen with some weapons. First, it seems like he intends to harm her, but instead he gives her some food. Soon after, Cameron resumes torturing her, mercilessly. He shows no sign of pity, no remorse. Colleen cries out in agony, struggling to endure the pain. Meanwhile, Janice, in her room, hears the screams. She covers her ears, unable to bear the sound. Later, Cameron joins her. Janice pleads with him, "Promise me you won't harm her anymore." Cameron agrees, but instead of letting Colleen go, he locks her inside a coffin-shaped box. To keep her alive, he installs an oxygen pipe inside. Colleen desperately tries to push the lid open, but she fails. Tears stream down her face. She cries, screams for help. It's revealed Cameron kidnapped her to make her his slave. Earlier, the girl Cameron buried was also one of his captives. She had tried to escape and paid the price. Inside the dark box, Colleen is consumed by fear and anger. She remembers her parents, their voices, their warmth. But while she suffers, her parents are desperately searching for her. They file a police report, but no trace of Colleen is found. Months pass. Colleen remains locked inside the box, her world now just darkness. Meanwhile, Janice gives Cameron news. She's pregnant. Cameron is overjoyed. Janice tries to convince him to let Colleen go. Keeping her like this, it's not right. It will affect our child. But Cameron refuses. He fears that if Colleen is freed, she'll go to the police. So he comes up with a plan. Cameron approaches Colleen, his face calm yet hiding his true intentions. He spins a terrifying story, claiming that he works for a company that buys and sells slaves. He warns her she now belongs to them. If she tries to escape, the company will hunt her down. Not only that, they will also harm her family. Colleen's heart pounds in terror. She feels trapped, powerless. But Cameron isn't done yet. He hands her a form, forcing her to sign it, convincing her that everything he said is true. As long as you behave like a good slave and follow my orders, you will be safe here. Terrified and brainwashed, Colleen complies. Satisfied, Cameron locks a collar around her neck. Collar just like one used for dogs. From that moment on, Colleen is no longer treated as a human. Cameron strips away every ounce of her dignity. From now on, you will address me as sir or master. Whenever I say attention, you will raise your hands and stand still. And just like that, Colleen's nightmare deepens. Every day, she is forced to work tirelessly, and every night, she is locked inside that wooden box. Months turn into a year. During this time, Janice gives birth to a baby girl. For the first time in forever, Colleen feels joy. But that joy is short-lived. 2 years pass, and she remains a captive. One day, while hanging laundry outside, Cameron tells her another horrifying story. A former slave just like her once tried to escape. She thought she was free. But when she turned to the police for help, she learned the truth. The officer was also part of the company. As punishment, her hands, feet, and tongue were cut off. She suffered for years before finally dying. Cameron looks into Colleen's eyes. That's why I treat you well. You should be grateful that you have a kind master. His words leave a deep scar in Colleen's mind. She is too terrified to even consider escaping. But one day, Cameron does something unexpected. He removes the collar from her neck. Then he takes her into his car, driving her deep into the forest. Colleen's heart races. Where is he taking her? They arrive at an open clearing where Cameron's friends are already present. Cameron gives her instructions. Your job is to stack the wood. And then he warns her, don't call me sir or master in front of them. Surprisingly, Cameron speaks politely during this time. His behavior confuses Colleen. After a long silence, she gathers the courage to ask, will I ever be able to go back home? Cameron looks at her, then replies, the company doesn't trust slaves. They don't allow them to leave. But I'll see what I can do. Colleen's hope flickers but doesn't die. While cutting wood, Cameron accidentally injures his leg and cries out in pain. That moment, Colleen has the perfect opportunity to escape, but she's so terrified by Cameron's previous threats that she does not run. Instead, she takes him back to the house and tends to his injury. When Janice sees this, she becomes angry and orders Colleen to leave. Actually, Janice doesn't want Cameron to be around anyone else but her. One night, Janice expresses her insecurities to Cameron, insisting that he stay away from Colleen, as she doesn't want Colleen to take her place. Time passes, and Colleen has been living as a slave for almost 4 years. She doesn't realize how much time has passed. One day, Colleen sees Janice's daughter, who has grown significantly older. This sight leaves Colleen shocked, because she's been kept mostly in the box and kept away from the child. One day, Cameron takes his wife and child out for a drive, leaving Colleen locked in the box. As she sleeps inside, she begins having terrifying nightmares. In her desperation, she prays to God, pleading, I've never wronged anyone, so why is this happening to me? Fear takes over and she starts kicking the box. After repeatedly hitting it, the box eventually opens. Later, when Cameron and his family return home, he goes to the basement to check for Colleen. To his shock, he finds the box open and immediately starts searching for her. He eventually finds Colleen hiding in the bathroom, sitting quietly and trembling with fear. When Cameron questions her, she explains, I was scared inside the box, so I came out. Hearing this, Cameron realizes that Colleen now accepts her fate and won't attempt to escape. After this, Colleen takes on all the household chores and even looks after Cameron and Janice's daughter. but every night she goes back into the box. Over time, Colleen begins to accept that living as a slave is her fate. Years pass, and Colleen has now been in captivity for 7 years. One day, Cameron tells Colleen that his company has granted her permission to visit her family for a few days. But first, she must pass a test to prove her loyalty. Cameron hands her a gun and instructs her to place it in her mouth and pull the trigger. Terrified, Colleen reluctantly obeys. To her relief, the gun is not loaded and she survives. Cameron uses this incident to convince himself that Colleen is now too broken and fearful to expose him. Trusting that she will not betray him, Cameron personally drives Colleen to her family home. He introduces himself to her parents as her boyfriend and says he has to leave for an urgent meeting. After years, Colleen's family is happy to see her, but Colleen, emotionally broken, pretends to be fine in front of them. She doesn't tell them the truth about Cameron. Colleen's sister tells her that it has been 7 years since they last met. This revelation shocks Colleen. Her sister explains that many of their relatives and friends are now married, and some even have children. This news makes Colleen feel deeply sad as she realizes how much time she has lost. In a private moment, Colleen's sister asks her when she will return. Colleen, lost in thought, replies that she doesn't even know herself. Her sister senses something is wrong and offers to listen if Colleen ever wants to share. Colleen is on the verge of revealing everything but is interrupted when Cameron arrives to take her back. Later that night, Cameron tells Colleen that he wants to marry her and start a family. But Colleen is not ready for this. Janice overhears the conversation and becomes upset. She has already been feeling strained in her marriage, and this new development only intensifies her frustration. The next day, Janice, with her daughter, packs up and leaves, choosing to walk away from her troubled marriage. Cameron is devastated by Janice's departure, and he takes out his frustration on Colleen. He locks her in the basement and tortures her, causing her to break down in tears. Afterward, Cameron leaves the house in his car. Meanwhile, Janice is at church, reflecting on her mistakes. She realizes that supporting her husband was wrong and prays for forgiveness. Filled with regret, Janice returns to Cameron's house, rescues Colleen from the basement, and reveals the truth about Cameron's lies. She tells Colleen that before, they had enslaved another girl who tried to escape, and Cameron had killed her for it. Janice no longer wants that fate for Colleen and urges her to leave. Janice takes Colleen to the bus stop, but Colleen is hesitant, afraid of what might happen. Janice encourages her to be brave, and Colleen finally boards the bus, heading toward freedom. When Colleen arrives home, she is overwhelmed with emotion as she reunites with her parents. After 7 years, she is free from the torment and able to breathe freely without fear or control. Colleen finally decides to tell the police the truth about Cameron. The authorities act swiftly, arresting him and sentencing him to life imprisonment for his crimes. With Cameron behind bars, the gripping story, based on the true and harrowing events of Colleen Stan's life, reaches its powerful conclusion. So friend, what do you think? Should Janice have taken action against her husband earlier? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more movie explanations and press the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. See you in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Goodbye for now.